Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. Like I said on the 8th of 450X episode, Kartikeya and I traveled together to Bengaluru on separate flights, but on the same day. I rode in electric, he drove and rode in a hybrid. Today we're talking about Toyota's most expensive sedan, the Camry Hybrid.
Yes, sir.
What do we need to know about this car?
What are you expecting from it?
I love the idea of the hybrid, the Camry Hybrid. I have a picture of, I used to stay on the outskirts of Pune for a while, and I was on the 9th or the 10th floor, and I would look down, and there was a black Camry that would come from this side, and it would leave the complex, and this silent black car, all the reflections of the sky and everything on it, and that's my image of the Camry.
And from that top angle, it had the older one had that more boxy shape. It would have looked really cool, actually. Yeah. So, but what are your expectations from it?
It's a Toyota, so it should be slightly boring.
Okay.
It's a Toyota, so it should be extremely well made, at least in terms of longevity, if not luxury. If I remember correctly, actually, I don't have to say I remember because I got a Camry as a taxi that picked me up from the airport to drop me home after the Ather first ride.
Oh.
So it was slightly rattly because it was an old Toyota, but spacious, comfortable, and I could assume that would be interpreted as luxurious, although the Germans' idea of the luxury thing and the Japanese idea of the luxury thing are, of course, two entirely different words. But so spacious, reasonably luxurious, comfortable, well-made, high-quality car, but not in-your-face luxury gadgets. No, I would not expect that.
If you've seen the pictures of the Camry now on the screen, you'll realize that things have changed.
Yeah, I have not seen the Camry at all, so.
And we've not spoken about it either. So of course, I'd seen the pictures before I went. And when I got to the event, and this is a really short drive because on Disconnect, we've discussed the first time I ever went for a Toyota event.
Which was to the hotel gate and back, if
I'm not correct. Yeah. And that was considered a drive. So we've come a long way from there. Today, we had 4 hours with the car and with the liberty of going up to 5 hours. But it was going to get dark and all of that. And I wasn't too keen. So I drove for about 4.5 hours, that types. But that's what it was. And we aren't shooting on these drives, so we can still manage all right. We just focus on driving. That's about it.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, it's like you've got to go out, drive.
And speak.
And get your thoughts together and shoot and speak and all of that. So it would have been crazy. But as soon as I got there in the hotel and the driveway had the cars, and I see what is called as, so interestingly, the Camry now comes in 2 editions. One is the Elegance edition and one is the Sprint edition. And I'm jumping things a bit here, but it's fine because the Sprint edition is the one that is the red and black, and that's what the pictures I have of are.
Okay.
And it looks cool, man. Like you look at the Toyota and you think, man, this is looking nice. You know, it looks younger, it looks sportier. It's got the contrast. It's red and it's got a contrast black roof. It's got a spoiler at the back. It's got a body kit types, front bumper, rear bumper additions, which are in black again. So it's got a sporty vibe going on.
Okay.
So much so that when we left the hotel and when we literally just got out, I parked to just put some thoughts down. And people came and started looking around the car. And this is near Nandi Hills where there aren't too many people, right? But people came to look at the car and stuff like that. So it's clearly a car that's going to attract more attention.
Okay.
And like we've spoken in the last was Amaze, where we said platforms are being extended.
Yeah.
Same here. So effectively, this is the same platform, the TNGA-K, I think, platform on which it was built.
NGAK.
TNGA, and then they have different.
Tinga K.
Got it. Yeah. I think it's K, but whatever it is. So that same platform is carried over here. So if you see any changes in dimensions of the car in the specs that we put up, it's largely down to aesthetics. The car fundamentally has not changed.
Okay.
So the wheelbase and weight and all of those things, track width and stuff like that, is the same. What's different is the styling, and the styling is dramatically different.
Okay.
You look at the face now, it really does look aggressive. It looks younger.
But not Lexus.
It looks sportier. Some vibes are there,
okay,
but I don't think enough to go into the Lexus space outright.
Okay.
It's sufficiently differentiated. So I think that's a good thing. The roof profile has changed a bit. It's become a bit more swoopy. And it's just the design is flowing nicely. It doesn't have that squareness, which is why when you start talking about the car that you would have seen, the thought was that it had the more square shape. Now it looks more flowing. So it has a younger vibe to it. So that's clearly a step forward. If you look at the Elegance edition, which is the grey car, I don't know if I have pics of that. We'll try and get some. But that looks nice. It looks a smart looking sedan.
So that looks like the more grown up car of the
Correct. Cool. Both cars look good.
And you get this print in black? All black?
I don't know what the color combinations are. Okay, since we're
Because to me, a Camry has to be black.
so this, I don't know if they have a black at all actually.
Come on.
I don't know. I don't know. So because we saw it in silver, and there are other colors that I quickly saw on the website. Like they have a pearl white, and then they have
a beige.
The red is obviously there.
And a beige.
Okay, if he insists, I'm sure.
How can you have a Toyota in India without a beige on offer? I mean, come on.
So I don't know.
Okay, sorry, gold. Gold? Pale gold?
They'll make one.
Beige.
Okay. So basically, now you have this car which is looking better in no matter which variant you'll pick up. It will look smarter, right? Fundamentally, like we said, it's the same car, but reskinned. And on the inside, like you said, it'll have a sense of luxury, but not really luxurious. Yeah, well, they flipped that around as well.
Okay.
Now when you get in the car, and it's being sold only in one trim, you get inside and you do not think of this as that compromise of getting a Toyota and not something luxurious enough. Is it absolutely everything as soft and like rich materials like you would in a BMW or something which you would get at a higher price point, let's be clear. No, it's not that. But the seats, the dashboard, the door pads, all of that, the leatherette, everything looks and feels really good. This feels like a premium car that way. So the two things that you would have thought that make this boring, they have reworked that. And interestingly, the Sprint edition that we're talking about, and which is the one that I drove, is a car that is being customed for India.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this is not an edition that's available in US or in the other markets. They have an all-wheel drive version there. They don't have an all-wheel drive. This is a front-wheel drive like we've had before. But they are doing this for India. And this is a custom package that has been developed. And I was talking to the engineers and they're saying we're sourcing bits for this as a package from, I think from Thailand. Because a lot of this comes from Thailand. And they're going to, so this kit is interestingly going to be partly factory installed and partly dealer installed.
Okay.
So what you get in the Sprint edition, I'm just going to clear this up, is that you'll get that contrast roof. You'll get those additional inserts for the bumpers, the spoiler. You get a warning lamp on the door edge, which is like a red light.
So when you open the door, they can see it's open.
And you get ambient lighting on the inside. So I'm guessing, right now we don't know what will be installed where. I'm guessing like that stop lamp and the ambient lighting might be done at a dealership level, whereas everything else which would require some body work and all, how well it's done, that might be done at the factory.
Because if they say that the dealer's going to fit the contrast black roof, I would be worried.
And this was right now, we were testing the cars which are pre-production. So, when you do the wrap, there might be some creases and stuff like that. So those were there. And they said, no, this is pre-production. We are just getting things in place. It'll be all will be fixed. So that's something. Because we don't know whether this is going to happen at the dealership level or the factory level, when you get this, if you choose to get this, keep a lookout for it. As of now, yes, this will only be, prices aren't available for the Sprint kit, like we said. Did we already? But anyways, the Sprint edition prices aren't out yet. They will be in March 2025.
Okay, so but you can buy a Camry without an edition, right?
Yes, you can. So that's the elegance.
So the editions are the editions.
Yeah.
And those prices will come in March. Okay, so tell us about the base car.
So the base car is the same in mechanically. They are the same car. There's no difference between them in terms of how they drive or what they're packing. It's just these features and aesthetics. That's the difference. So the cabin experience will be the same in both the cars.
That's what you said. It's the same trim whether you get Elegance, Sprint or the normal car. It's the same interior.
So features, design, all of that. I mean, in the cabin, the design, equipment, all of that is the same. There's no difference. And we are saying that the cabin experience itself has moved up in terms of premiumness, and that is again like, so at this price point, at 48 lakhs extra, right, which is a couple of lakhs more than what
it's cheaper than a Fortuner.
That's a great point. Yeah. So,
Oh, it's just a sedan. It won't do off-roading.
so at this price point, to get a car of this size, and now with this kind of coolness in terms of design and the cabin experience, I think it feels special enough, right? It feels special enough. Then you get on the road. Okay, we'll talk about the features and all later. Let's talk about the main stuff.
Sure.
On paper, the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder petrol motor is the same. The electric motor is the same. But everything power has gone up. The petrol motor by itself, the electric motor by itself, and the combined output has also gone up.
So
Combined.
inflationary increase.
Yeah. So interestingly, if you look at just the petrol motor, it's much more. If you look at just the electric motor, if you add those numbers up, it's more.
Got it.
But the actual combined power output is marginally higher.
And electric range is longer now?
So that's the thing. I don't have a direct number. I did drive it in EV mode only. And I think I did maybe about 3 kilometers in just EV mode. And we were driving on B roads. So not the smooth sailing kind of driving. You have to just measure it a bit on, off, that kind of stuff. So EV mode is there. It works. Is it a expanded EV mode in the sense where you can do 10 kilometers or so? It's
Still
not
not.
that. It's still not that, right? That's more plug-in hybrid domain. So you're not getting that here.
Okay.
The battery pack has changed. The battery pack has become slightly smaller from 1.09 kilowatt hours to 1.04 kilowatt hours because they've gone from NIMH to lithium ion. But they're saying they've had to redraw the entire strong hybrid system because the battery is different, because of how they'll then use the battery.
Okay.
So the ability to discharge the battery, all of the characteristics will
Completely
be different,
changed,
right?
yes.
So they've had to redraw how the hybrid system works, and this is called the Toyota Hybrid System Gen 5. This is the 5th gen. So for instance, the ones that we see on the Grand Vitara, on the High Rider, which are both using the same Toyota hybrid system, those are 4th gen. This is the 5th gen. So it is interesting to see that they are tweaking and tuning everything to get slightly better performance, slightly better efficiency at the same time. So while there's more power and it is faster accelerating, the efficiency has also gone up from 23 to 25. But the point is, it's better in every way in this regard. That's the promise. Get on the road, start driving. That's why I made the note as soon as I stopped. I got out of the hotel, right? Because I got going and it was like, of course it's smooth, but it's feeling quieter than I remember it to be. And it's feeling a little quicker than I imagined it to be, right? So I was like, okay, nice, this is good. And I drove a little bit more. And the sense was that it's feeling more responsive. So usually we are starting off near Nandi Hill, so you'll head out onto the highway and then whatever. Right? So instead we said we'll go into the city, not into Bengaluru, but the outskirts. So we went and drove around there because I thought that maybe we'll have to, it's feeling a little too responsive, we'll have to use it in eco mode to get the right city feel. But when we got into traffic, the normal drive mode worked well.
Okay.
So the recalibration of the drivetrain is making it feel nicer to use, but at the same time, it's not too quick. So it's got the right balance to feel, let's say, a little bit more spirited, but at the same time, easy still to drive.
Got it.
So that system works well, and there's no two ways about it. This system is at its happiest best in the city, right? Because that's when it does a lot of its work as an EV. So you barely hear the engine. You won't hear that droning aspect of it. And overall, the refinement also seems to be better. And this is, I remember we have driven this car to Goa and back, the previous generation. We've driven the Camry hybrid. And I called Arun Shenoy from Zigwheel's Car Dekho just prior to this to just refresh my memory. Because we drove it to Goa and back. And we were like, on the way back, we were fully loaded, like 4 guys in the car with luggage and all of that. So I'll come to that later. So I have distinct memories of this car because we spent a lot of time with it.
Sure.
And one of them was, does it feel nicer to be in terms of the refinement aspect? 2, is it more comfortable from a suspension standpoint, right? So these were 2 big questions. I was sure that the hybrid system would work well enough. I mean, it's what it is. But would these 2 aspects be better? So I think from a refinement standpoint, it does feel better. When you accelerate hard, it used to have a very, like that gravelly kind of note to it, which has been softened now. It's not gone. This is not a car that you will say, I enjoyed driving fast. It can drive fast. The performance feels good. It's not that it feels lacking in terms of performance to overtake, to cruise, whatever it is. It does that well. But you don't enjoy it. And that's the thing about hybrids, I think. They are an efficient and a solid solution, but it's not the car that you connect with directly.
Yeah, and I think you made this distinction when we were last talking about Toyota versus Honda as two makers of hybrid systems. That Honda's hybrid systems do have the utility angle, but they can become a little bit exciting to drive.
Yeah.
But the Toyota one is just like, no, I have a job to do, which is to improve the performance by a slight amount and improve the efficiency as much as I can, and that's what I'm going to do.
Correct. So like in that comparison, we were talking about the Grand Vitara or High Rider's strong hybrid system versus the City's strong hybrid system. The City's electric motor is much larger than the High Riders, right? So that's just how Honda does things a bit differently, and Toyota configures things a bit differently. So you see that here as well. Do you have any issue with performance? No. It moves. You can't really complain about this size of car getting going, right? It's there. But is it something you enjoy when you do that, as in when you are pushing it? No.
Yeah, but that's a Toyota trait for most of their vehicles now, right?
So in some ways, it remains Toyota. So could it have been quieter? Yes, it could have been quieter. Should it have been quieter? Yes, it should have been quieter. Because with the luxury experience on the inside, what they could have created a better experience of is the backseat by making it more hushed. In the front, in fact, I wasn't so bothered by the road and tire noise, but in the back, when you're more isolated from engine noise, the road and tire noise becomes more apparent.
Sure.
Right? And this is something that we spoke about this when we did the Elevate view as well, that sound insulation is an issue. And I think there is a factor here, which is, again, these are Bridgestones. And Bridgestones, I think they tend to drum up more noise. And it feels the same here as well. I'm fairly certain if you tried another brand or another spec, even from Bridgestone, a higher spec, you would get a quieter and a more premium experience.
Okay.
And these are the things I think Toyota just always kind of misses out on. Because maybe it's the Japanese angle, or maybe it's just they don't care about it, right? Because like we saw with the High Cross, which is a beautiful car. Like for city commutes, it's amazing, right? Because of the space, the quietness. But the basic sound insulation on that is poor. Like if a BST bus goes by, you'll hear it and feel it as it goes by. Which is, I mean, that's not what it should be in a 30-something lakh rupee vehicle, right? So this is something that Toyota misses out on, and I think they miss out on creating that wow experience and going beyond saying that it's reliable, it'll keep running, and I'm done with that, and that's all that I need. Right? It's like they've done this step of designing the interior better, designing the exterior better, but this is still not a part of that
One last step left.
Yeah. Right? Now the thing in all of this is the car sounds on paper the same, right? But man, they have gone and this also took a lot of conversations, because I came back from the drive and I said, it's not the same, right? This feels so different. And it's because of the way the suspension is tuned, the way the steering is calibrated. Dude, like the last time I felt like this about a steering, like an EPS, was like when the EPSs had just started coming, when electronic power steering started coming into mass market cars, right? They were not well tuned, and up until then we had hydraulic steerings, which were all about feel and you would say connection and all of that. The first time I remember driving an EPS and saying that, man, this is so good, was the Renault Fluence. I will never forget that. It was just beautiful.
Yeah.
This steering is beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful, man. Like that smoothness but precision. Special.
So your driver's really going to enjoy this car.
No, if you get the Sprint, hopefully you'll be driving it, right?
No, man.
So,
if you go into a 5-star hotel in a Camry, they're going to open the rear door.
change things around, man.
They're not going to open the front door.
When they see the black roof, they'll say, no, this is the guys in the front. Anyways, the point is, the steering, beautiful. I mean, they have calibrated it. I mean,
That good.
Oh man, like, steerings, tend to have that what is called a stiction in suspension, right? Like just that little bit of stickiness, that initial resistance. It's there in every steering practically. Here you don't feel it. It's just so smooth as soon as you start moving it, and that sense of precision throughout.
Nice.
Oh, if it's good, I mean, I would celebrate
No,
stuff
I'm
like
happy
this.
that Toyota's taking care of the chauffeurs.
Yeah. So that, such a joy, such a joy. The other part, the suspension. They have, I mean, again, like you drive it and you say that this is not the same. And it's such a nice balance.
Okay.
Such a nice balance of comfort and control. Like you could easily travel in this car, just peace out.
So you can have a 50 lakh rupee Toyota in India that doesn't judder and shudder over the bumps.
Yeah, I mean, it's a monocoque as well. No? High cross is nice too. But anyways, this is definitely like, why am I defending it?
I don't know why you're defending it.
So this is really good. And again, like the Bengaluru.
So again, sorry, but when you say balance, you're saying between, let's say, a slightly more enthusiastic character and being super comfortable for when you're driving yourself or when you're sitting in the backseat, the balance is great. That's what you're saying?
So it's okay. He's hit upon it. So I'm going to get there. The steering with the suspension tune. Oh, the front end. I was taken aback with how good the front end is.
Oh, nice.
You know, this car used to be sold in the US with a V6. So this is the first time they've stopped offering the V6 in the US. It's only strong hybrid. But they do offer it as an all-wheel drive over there. We get the front-wheel drive. So this thing, when we were chucking it around corners, my God, I was taken aback with how well it turned.
Nice.
And this has a trait which I remember with the Lexus as well, the LS 500. It tends to get a bit skittish at the rear. Means at the rear, if you get a little bit of a bump, then it'll move. But the front just sits. So you can power it through stuff and just let the rear be a little bit playful, and that's fine. And you enjoy that. And given the size of this, it was surprisingly clean. It was surprisingly quick. So all of that, when you're bhagawing it, the only thought is, it's making too much noise. We should do a little bit faster. That's about it. So the chassis and suspension, the way it's working, is really impressive. Like I said, the steering, the front end works from a driving standpoint. The suspension from the more Camry standpoint is, the good thing is that it is good over bad roads.
Okay.
Again, this tendency of being able to go over the bad bits without getting harsh. And that is the thing that I didn't like about the old Camry. Not that it got harsh, but it
but it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it just felt clunky, right? Like it didn't like that, which is not the sense you get now.
Correct.
It works smoothly, it works silently. And the most impressive bit in all of this, for me, was that the ground clearance is 148 millimeters unladen. And when I was driving the car, it was two of us, because Toyota does Toyota things. We have a chaperone while we're driving. So there was somebody in the car with me. And so two people in the car. And literally, the first set of speed breakers that you go over, you take a little bit of care, right? And the next set that you arrive at, you start levitating, you pucker up and you're like, oh, you're going to 100% touch. And you go, nothing happened. You say, okay, the next one. So you get a little bit more adventurous, then you do it. Okay, no, fine. So went off the highway to find places where there were speed breakers, and some of them where you could see scrape marks, like like that. That stuff has touched down.
Speed breakers,
So going over them, and each time you're like, oh. It cleared everything except one, which was an incline, and the speed breaker over there was also uneven. Like it was heavier on one, it was larger on one side, and there it touched down. So my analysis of that was, what the suspension was not doing was, when you went over it,
it didn't bounce at the end.
It didn't sag too much. It just went and immediately corrected.
Yeah.
So it never went into the stroke too much. And its performance was great. And that is the sense of what it did on the road, that it never got too upset. And whenever it did move around, it quickly settled back down.
Nice.
And so I went back to the team and I said, this is a different feel. So what's changed? They said, we'll have to check. So thankfully they pulled out the entire presentation and they went through the presentation, and then you go through it and you say, you know why they can't list what's changed, right? Because like bearing stiffness increased, rod
got it.
stiffness increased,
Yeah.
this tolerance reduced, this bushing changed.
Got it.
So it's like that. It's the entire system has been tweaked. So it sounds like the same system, but it's a different system.
And there's so many tweaks that it adds up to a completely different result. So,
Correct.
Yeah.
So we went through the presentation, like the couple of slides, which whatever I'd asked them about, and it was like, okay, they've changed the bearing here, they've changed this here, they changed that there, and so fundamentally, they have overhauled the entire thing, and the same thing applies to the drivetrain as well.
Got it.
So the engine might seem like the same 2.5 liter, but the way it interacts with the electric motor, what the electric motor is doing, they said the transaxle is new, which is a combination of all those factors, and therefore the experience has changed.
Right.
Right? So it's it's such a funny thing, right? It's a cooler looking car, it feels richer on the inside, it's nicer to drive, but still it's gonna feel like this, hey, this is a sensible decision you're making. It's happiest in the city where it's gonna feel most EV like. It's gonna feel good enough on the highway. From a performance standpoint and from a cruising standpoint, but over there the shortfall for me is that I wish it had better sound insulation so that it would hit that luxury feel spot on, right? It would be dead on then.
Got it.
Other than that, equipment wise, they've stepped everything up. It gets 9 airbags. It's got dual screens, and the screen itself, the touch screen is a larger, I think 12 something inch touch screen, and it's got a new UI which doesn't feel Japanese at all, except for the fact that there's no home screen. So I'm looking around, how do I get to the home screen on this? I can't find the home screen. Then I realized there isn't one. It doesn't have a home screen. It's one or the other menus.
Oh, got it. Okay.
That's it. There's no home screen, like, which feels like your starting page, and then you go into settings. So either you're on the settings page, or you're on the telephony page, or you're on the navigation page. There's no no home screen as such. You get it?
Very interesting.
Right? So there are those strange bits. Then there's the instrument cluster. The instrument cluster is, I straight away looked at it and I said, man, this reminds me of the X-Trail. Which was, you remember, I said it was super simple and people said it was too simple. And I loved it about that. This looked like that. But it had more information around it. So it was actually a super complicated setup because you can go through multiple views and then you can configure, like you get the twin dial view. So you can configure what's shown in the inset of the dial of both. Then there's the center display which you can customize as well. But to arrive to that, it took us a bit of time.
So can the chauffeur watch reels in the middle display?
No.
So they haven't taken full care yet.
No, they haven't gone desi yet. Yeah. So that's not there. But the instrument cluster, also very good. Sound system, I did not test, but it should be good enough. Storage, this I want to talk about because the center console storage, very nice. There's a nice little, almost like a tub where you can park your phone and it's not going to go anywhere. There's a wireless charger pad, cup holders, all of that. Great. Door pockets.
What happened to door pockets?
They're small, so small.
Like the Nexon.
Yeah, you could put them in that space because it's literally one bottle that you can park there. That's it. And that too, it has that. I like the design because the outer section is not hard mounted to the door that way. It's at two edges. So it kind of flexes. So when you put the bottle in, it flexes out a bit. So it's holding the bottle in place like that. So, but it's so small. So anyways, this is a small thing, not a big deal.
So the important one that I want to ask is the passenger doors at the back. Do they have enough storage? Because the front, who cares about the Camry? Nobody's going to sit in the front.
Nobody in the back is going to put a bottle there. They've got an armrest and this and controls and everything. So yeah,
that's the important part.
Yeah. So backseat, you've got the same setup as before.
Because see, from the back seat, if you get thirsty, all you have to say is, Bhaiya pani dena, and then Bhaiya will give you pani.
Correct. So that will come from samne only, no? Piche ki zarurat nahi hai. The backseat, fundamentally, the same as before. Which is to say that you have two seats which are power operated. They can recline. You've got the electronic controls here in the armrest. And boss mode for the front seat and stuff like that. No massage function at all.
No massage?
No massage. No ventilation function either.
No ventilation
You've got 3-zone climate control, 2 up front, 1 at the back. So the basics to establish a luxury environment is right there. And
Isn't there a contradiction in terms when you say the basics to establish a luxury environment are there?
yeah, because I've been thinking about it. As much as I like the idea of the recline adjustment, what I actually want now is like, what those seats I've been raving about, like in the Hyundai Kias, 6-way power adjustment, where you can adjust the seat base angle. I want that for the rear seats. Citroën, right? Get it powered and don't keep
Correct.
it manual. That's when that's the real customization that I would want in a back seat to get comfy. I remember there was some car, must have been one of the Audis, BMWs or whatever, that they had seat base adjustment as well. When you would slide the backrest,
This would open.
this would also stretch out, right? That is when I would say that now you've hit the luxury mentality for the back seat. Then this is the basic. You've got seat back recline. Okay, great. But what about my seat base now? I want that as well. So I think we need to push these ideas further. And this is going to play more into the hands of mass market makers, honestly. We were discussing this with some friends. And I was just saying that I think luxury car makers are in a hole. Because what can they do more
Correct.
to convey the idea of luxury?
Yeah.
Especially with EVs, everybody's going to be quiet.
Correct.
Everybody's going to be smooth. All you can do is throw speakers and screens at the problem.
Yeah.
Until you really create something which is wow. And what is that wow going to be? So now, even with brands like Toyota, etc., I would expect that why not? Why not? You can do it, right?
Yeah.
So the back seat, we spent time there. The suspension worked well. Highways, B roads, everything. It was genuinely surprising how well the suspension worked. It may have been a very poor driver, but there was this patch we were on a B road, and there was a duster in front of us, and the road was broken, and we went past the duster. I was like, well, that's a nice point to make. So the Camry, you could drive it without getting worried.
Nice.
Right? How it works with a full load about the ground clearance performance is a question mark, and you should keep that in mind. But by and large, it will be better. It has been better than I expected.
Okay.
Looking at the numbers on paper, comfort factor in the back thoroughly revamped in terms of the look feel with the suspension tune. Much more enjoyable for longer distances over our kind of road conditions. So definitely a more luxurious experience, even if not in the sense of outright plushness, but actually the utility and the tune is meant for you to travel with.
Got it.
What's missing there is, of course, the sound insulation, like I said right at the start. What is the real sense of luxury, of course, here is that you get a massive boot, and under the boot is a full-size spare wheel.
Oh, nice.
With alloy wheels as well. So yeah, I mean, these are the small ideas of luxury for me, man. Like, I can travel wherever I want, whenever I want, and it's done. Right?
And if I have a puncture, you don't have to see my car going past you with that black steel wheel instead, with like warning labels all over it.
Correct. 80 km speed limit. So so it's practical. It was always a practical car. I think they've added the sense of appeal and that a little bit added sense of luxury. In terms of equipment, I would have missed out that it now gets a 360-degree camera. It gets 9 airbags I mentioned. It gets ADAS as well.
Level 3.
Level 2. Level 2 ADAS. And
but you said the Toyota ADAS was already in a pretty good place. Calibrations were pretty accurate, so it was okay.
Same. So you don't feel the need to switch it off by default. Did test it out, and yes, it works well. Lane keep assist, lane departure warning.
Is there a sunroof also?
Adaptive cruise control.
So can you switch on level 2 ADAS and then climb out of the sunroof and wave to people and make reels and stuff?
Sure, people will find a way. With or without the
I'm
ADAS.
judging you. If you think this is a good idea, I'm judging you.
With or without the ADAS, people will find a way. So the ADAS works well. No hassles there. It's still, and to give you an example, tested it, worked well. In our conditions, the thing is that there are the in-between scenarios which ADAS will struggle with, and that is what you have to remember. So we had this incident where we were on the leftmost lane, and this is the highway going to, so one of the highways around the Hyderabad side or the other, not the Hyderabad side,
Kolar.
the other one.
Kolar?
I've forgotten. Basically, it's one of the new ones. So it's a really nicely marked out highway. And it's got the flyovers. Everything is beautifully done. So it's like the ideal scenario for you to use ADAS in. And we were using that, and adaptive cruise control was on. And I had just moved from the center lane to the leftmost lane on top of a flyover. And at the end of the flyover was where the traffic was merging. And it wasn't much traffic, right? I didn't know what was coming. But when we got to that point, there was a truck coming in. I let it do its thing. The point is that the system could not recognize the truck coming in early enough. So it literally came into the point where it's now getting a little close for my comfort that I would want to intervene now and not wait for the system anymore. The system did. We were testing it, and we were not going too fast. We had adaptive cruise control on, so it had all those measures in place. So it did intervene, but not soon enough. So it's not a, let's say, idiot-proof system. In our conditions, it is not. So which is why we'll continue to say ADAS is a toy that you opt in for because you want to experience what the toy is like. You cannot use that toy on the road on a regular basis. We do not advise it. Adaptive cruise control on highways is definitely helpful, but on those nice, well-manicured, well-behaved sections of the highway.
Correct.
So that's how you can think about it, right?
Understood.
What else? Yeah, that's fundamentally the Camry.
This car is imported, CBU, CKD?
It's assembled here.
It's assembled here from Thailand kits, you said.
Yeah. So it's predominantly Thailand, and they do have some local content as is required. So that's tires, glasses,
Chauffeurs.
chauffeurs are being imported. So I think a little bit more, but basics like that, what is mandated is being sourced locally, but the rest of it is coming from is being imported.
Do they sell a lot of these cars?
They're doing, I think, in the region of 200 to 300 a month.
Okay, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all. I think there's a very loyal following for this car.
No, I can see why, right? Because I remember I was doing a story on leasing, and I was talking to the BMW guys and the Mercedes-Benz guys and the Audi guys, and they all said we do these plans like this, whatever, and they seemed like fairly expensive ways to do it. This is 10, 14 years ago, and then I couldn't find a lease plan for like the Camry, and I was like, why not? And they said because the German cars resale values are far more predictable than the Japanese luxury car resale values, and in quantum the Germans hold their residuals much stronger than the Japanese, so the Japanese cannot offer lease plans like this yet.
Really?
It was just not possible. And I don't know if the situation has changed or not. But therefore that also means that if I were to be looking for a large luxury car, I'd love the values of the Toyota, right? It'll be reliable, it'll be high quality, service will be relatively straightforward, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be very complicated. And it'll be cheap to buy. Because if you think about an equivalent sized BMW physically today versus the Camry, you'd be at what? 3 Series? 5 Series?
There'd be 3 Series will be even more expensive.
Yeah, I'm saying physical size. Camry will be...
5 Series.
Camry will be a 5 Series sized car.
Yeah.
So that means the 5 Series starts at what? A crore? 80, 90?
80, yeah.
Right? So you're looking at nearly 2 times the price to go from the Japanese luxury car to the German luxury car. I don't know that if I were in the used market, I wouldn't just straight go to a Camry if I wanted that kind of a size of car. And I'd trade away all the variables.
And the space inside is definitely very good.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember Hallie wanting to buy a used car. Hallie used to work with me in Overdrive. And Hallie was looking at a 2 lakh rupee budget or something. And I said, what will you get for 2 lakh rupees, right? And to us, 2 lakh rupees is motorcycle money. And this is also, again, 10, 14 years ago, right?
Corolla.
And he's like, Corolla? I said, what, you get a Corolla for 2 lakh rupees? He said, you get it for under 2 lakh rupees. And then you do service for 20,000 rupees. And then it's really brand new.
Never say die.
Yeah. It's not the sedan, it's the never sedan.
So yeah, so in terms of space, like since you brought this comparison up, compared to luxury cars, and this is 48 lakhs. A C-Class or a 3 Series is 60 something lakhs.
Correct.
Ex-showroom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is a hybrid. Those are pure play petrols. And so I think the difference in value is
I think there's
substantial.
entirely different customers.
And there are so many people that I know who opt for a Camry because it's not drawing attention.
Yeah.
They're getting their functional needs fulfilled.
Yeah.
They want space.
Yeah. No, and I'm telling you this, I'm on a motorcycle constantly and I'm going through traffic. And when I see these new BMWs, which are so noticeable because they look so different from everything, down to this one that almost you can just tell that it's made of plastic, which is that the big X thing.
I have no idea which one.
Every day I pass one of these on my way home, and I think it's the same person. It's a black car, it's an SUV, X5 sized, whatever it is.
X5, X7, I don't know which
It's
one.
no, it's not a 7. It's a 5 sized, the electric version. So iX4,
Oh,
iX, whatever it is. Every time I look at that car in black, and only in black, okay, the blue doesn't look like this. I look at the one in black and I say that's made of plastic. I don't know why I have this deep-seated impression that it's gloss black plastic that car is made of.
It's from the rear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't appreciate it, right? But I see Camry cabs every single day. I see black Camrys every single day, and they have a sense of luxury car went by, but it's very subtle and under the...
Like a very stately kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I'd totally go for that. So I can immediately see that if I had that kind of money and I was looking at that budget, I would not be able to discount the Camry straight away saying, it's Japanese. No, I would not be able to.
It's for a certain kind of buyer for sure. Because it's not the, hey, look at me kind of car. The new one is more than before.
Sure.
But it's not going to be like the Germans or the Europeans in that way, right?
And I'm assuming the living expenses will be a significant order lower.
And so that's why we come back to the Goa story. Because this one now, with the improvement in acceleration, they've claimed something. 0 to 100 has gone from 8 something to 7 something. It has more power, but it also has more fuel efficiency, right? And back at Zig, so we were 4 of us, plus luggage, plus equipment, and we driven down to Goa and back up. So on the way back, we said, let's see how far this thing goes, right? So we fueled up in Panjim. We drove up to Pune, where we were dropped off. 3 of us who were from Pune, we were dropped off. And then Arun drove to Mumbai in the car, right? So till Pune, we were kind of concerned, like, is it going to do it in a tank full? We'd filled up in Panjim. That was the thing, that let's do it in a tank full and all of that. And you're climbing up the plateau, right? So it's a lot of work, especially when we are fully loaded and all of that. So we were slightly concerned, is it going to do it or not? So I spoke to Arun before we shot this. I said, do you remember what numbers we did? So he was like, I don't remember the numbers, but I can tell you that once we've cleared Pune and I got to Mumbai, it was basically like we were manufacturing petrol because we were coming downhill, right? So he said he got back home, which is a different kind of luxury to think about, you know, that you don't have to you don't bat an eyelid to travel. You just get in and go for a car of that size.
Correct.
That's a different value set altogether.
Given the amount that I drive every year, I'd fill the car every 3 years.
So overall, a better Camry. I think overall, much better value given what the experience is on the inside, the look, feel, and the level of equipment that it's now packing. So if you see the 2 lakh rupees extra versus what more it packs, it's good. Yeah. New 18-inch alloy wheels. No. What else?
Quick summary time.
So the only thing I haven't really spoken about is how much space you have in the back. And given its swoopier shape, you could be concerned about headroom. But whatever I saw, I think even for 6-footers, there's enough. You'll be fine. Especially if you're lounging around, I think it should be okay. So it's not going to be the tallest car, sedan, but there's plenty of space. Knee room is good. So I did this thing where I went into like that boss mode. I used the controls to slide the front seat forward until I could really stretch
Until the
out.
the Toyota chaperone was sitting like this in the front seat?
No, so he was driving at that point. No? So I did that. Then I said, hey, this is not representative of how you would really use the car. Can I really fit into the front? So I said, let me try. So he stopped. I got into the front and I could get in. I could sit. You're sitting a little pushed up. Sure. But so it's not like it's pushed all the way into the dashboard. So like I, at 5 feet 6 inches, could manage. I reset it, went all the way back and then sat back again. So you can get comfortable seating for taller passengers as well, front and back. There's plenty of space that way. So yeah, the back seat was always about being spacious and relaxed. And that works now too, just feels a bit richer. So that's good.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
So here's the quick summary of the Toyota Camry Hybrid. But first, I'd like you to notice I didn't interrupt him at all. Let me know what you think about that. I have been reading your comments. I didn't even say my little after everything he said this time. I paid that much attention.
That threw me off, man.
Because silence and isolation is what luxury is about. So I've offered you a luxury. And now let's talk about the car of the day. So first, logistics.
Why am I feeling bad?
This has nothing to do with you. This is between me and them. So the Toyota Camry Hybrid is updated now and it's on sale. And we get this car assembled in India from basically kits that come from Thailand. So there's two Camrys that we need to speak about today. The base car is called the Elegance, which is what you'd buy from the showroom right now. Then in March, there will be this red and black car that you're seeing on the screen. That's called the Sprint Edition. It's a kit that is added partly by the dealer, partly by the manufacturer. We're not clear which parts are added where. That's where the contrast roof, the accent lighting, etc., come from. Underneath that, however, it's both the same car, slightly different looking from each other. Price will be slightly different. The base car starts at 48 lakh rupees ex-showroom, which is roughly 2 lakh rupees more than before. But for what this car is, Kartikeya says the 2 lakh rupees is super easy to justify, no stress at all. What you'll immediately notice is that from the old, slightly squared off large car that the Camry was, this is a much more flashy and interesting looking car. It's swoopier than before. The Sprint Edition, even if you ignore that, even the base car looks really nice. You will enjoy how much cooler the car looks, and for Toyotas to look cool is a big deal, so we will not discount that. Why are you looking at me like I said something sarcastic? It's
No, it's
true.
fair. It's absolutely fair.
Yeah. And what you'd be even happier about is that the previous Camry was a little bit like functional luxury. So it was luxurious and it was spacious and all of that, but you didn't have that sense of a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW kind of luxury, which is the gadgets are also there and the soft touch materials are also there and all of that. This Camry takes that and moves that forward. Is it as gadgety as a German car? No, but functionally far superior place. Great back seat. Lots of electronic controls. You can move the passenger seat, the left side passenger seat all the way to the front. So you can have the, what do you call it? Boss mode activated. The seat reclines a little bit. Karthik said if there was a little bit more adjustment for the seat base, so you could really get support from that, that would really solve that part of the problem. The driver's seat, the two screens, there's a 12-inch middle screen. There's a driver's instrument display, which can be set to something very simple, which is what he really enjoyed about it, but it's a really full-featured system, so you can also make it really complicated if you want to. Upshot, it feels luxurious, it feels nice, it's a really comfortable car, and unlike that functionality of the old car, this is a lot more really like luxury. What is missing in that picture primarily is noise insulation. Karthik wished there was just a little bit more. At the front, you can hear the engine when you push the car a little bit. It's a gravelly noise, it's still there. It's more muted than before, but it's still there. At the back, you're isolated from that noise, but now you can hear the tires. Maybe it's just the Bridgestone. So when you own this Camry Hybrid, later you change to a better set of tires, which are quieter in nature. Maybe this will not be so much of an issue, but it's an odd miss for Toyota to have. But in the same breath, Karthik says this is the kind of miss that Toyotas normally do have. Now, the engine is the same as before. This is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. Small tweaks everywhere, including to the hybrid system itself. The battery has changed chemistry. It's a slightly smaller battery now. So it still does the EV mode, but this is not like a 10-kilometer EV mode. This is a transient EV mode that comes and goes. In the city, you will really enjoy the car because when it goes into EV mode, it's a super quiet, smooth experience. Not that the engine is rough, but it is quieter when it's just the motor running. On the highway, competent car. He really enjoyed the steering to the point where he went over and over the point about how nice the steering is. And for an electric power steering to be that kind of good, it's rare. He loved it. And he said to the point where when you're pushing the car in the corners, the rear can get a little bit feisty. But since the front is so planted, you're just happy to let it be and just enjoy that experience, which for a car of this size, for this role, is completely unexpected. And as I said, I think the chauffeur will be really thrilled about it. But if you're sitting in the backseat when all of this feistiness is going on, I'm not sure you'll be that thrilled about it. But what that means to us is if you have a Camry Hybrid and yes, your chauffeur does drive you around the city, that's fine. On the weekend, maybe you should be driving your own car. The suspension setup, similarly, on paper, it looks like the same setup as the old Camry. Karthik dived into this in more detail with the engineers, and there's like literally, let's call it 160 really small changes. And what that leads to is a completely different suspension setup in feel. And this is a really competent suspension setup. It doesn't get as upset as it used to over broken roads. Ground clearance on paper might look a little bit low, but it didn't scrape anything but one speed breaker, and he tried. And we don't know what the car will be like when it's fully loaded. So you have all the 4 passengers in, you have the luggage in the place. We don't know, we'll test it. But it seems like the setup is really good. It is a huge step forward from the previous one. So overall, big car, luxurious car, high quality car, will last a long time. And if you're comparing it to the German cars, it's about half the price of a 5 Series, give or take, and it'll be a lot cheaper to live with. And Karthik and I agree on this. I think these two different customers they're talking to. The guys who want the German badges want to be seen to have that car. And then there is this whole other bunch of people who are like, I want the luxury experience, but I don't want everybody to immediately recognize the fact that I'm saying, hey, look, I have a German car. It's all right. There is a very quiet side to luxury. It might even be considered the classy side of luxury. And the Camry has been one of the very few cars that have played that game successfully or unsuccessfully. We can debate.
Yeah.
And therefore, base car, the elegance, you can buy now. And if you want the sprint edition, prices come out in March, and only then can you order the sprint edition.
Supremo.
That's all there is to it. And for the record, this car is cheaper than a Fortuner.
So we've done this in a more lighter conversation because, well, it's the Camry. And this is really an interesting thing because the kind of people who go for the Camry are the ones who are like, I know what my needs are. I don't need to be seen or to show.
Yeah.
And they're happy with this. And they genuinely, the reason why when you were talking about the lease aspect, because like a relative of mine was looking to get a used Camry and a hybrid specifically. And it wasn't easy because the people who have these,
they don't want to sell them.
They don't want to sell them. They just hold on to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a smaller audience, but I think it's a very, hopefully, because with this car, the way it looks and the cabin experience and all, the interest in it will go up, and hopefully, which is also a question mark, Toyota will be able to supply better. Because one of the first things when I spoke to a friend about the Camry, saying that, hey, I just drove it, and he said, 8-month waiting. And he's like,
but I think that's natural for Toyotas, right? See, there's two brands, I think, on the planet which will never get off the shelf, right? Ferrari and Toyota. Ferrari by design and Toyota by conservatism.
No, also by design. I think it's part you value it more than when it comes.
Yeah.
How many Camrys? It's the wait. No. It's in a very Japanese way. It's the effort towards sustainability, because then when you've waited so long for a vehicle, you will savor it for longer. You will value it for longer. That is why.
8 महीने तो खरीदने में लगे. 8 months तो we waited to buy it. Now how can I sell it in 8 months because I'm bored? I'll keep it for another 8 months just to make a point of it.
Correct. You'll hold on to it for longer. So yeah, that's the formula.
So what's next for Toyota?
What's next for Toyota? I think the interesting one to talk about will be
there's rebadge Celerio.
We were having this chat. Would you think they'll do a rebadged Swift or a rebadged Desire?
I think they should.
They should.
Yeah.
Because the Maruti Suzuki e-Vitara, Toyota has showcased their version of that in Europe already.
Correct.
So once, I think the e-Vitara's conversation is kicking off, because it's going to be shown at Bharat Mobility, which means the Toyota version of it can't be too far away.
No.
So those will be the interesting.
No, I think the Desire definitely needs to be rebadged. This time there should be an active call to action in the car's name so that you just cannot ignore it like the last time. Last time it was just the Etios, which means nothing to no one. So that car didn't do too well. This time it should be called the Getios.
Yeah.
Okay, and the campaign should be Get Yours. Get yours, get yours.
Okay then. Any more?
No, I think I'm done with the bad jokes for today. I decided that today I will not interrupt your flow. I will not interrupt your flow. If you're done, then we are done.
I'm done.
Thank you so much for watching. This is MotorInc First on the Toyota Camry Hybrid. If we've not answered any question, please do leave us a comment. For the record, it's easier for us to track the comments on the app rather than on YouTube. So if you really do seriously have a question, you do seriously need an answer, I'd tell you to go to the app. You're probably going to get a response faster. But outside of that, we don't actually have a preference for where you'd like to leave us a comment. It's totally fine. And we will be back soon with more MotorInc First. I think what we have in the pipeline is...
First will be Creta EV.
Creta EV, e-Vitara.
E-Vitara, we don't have a date yet on when we're going to drive. They're going to unveil it at Bharat Mobility.
Right.
We will have, like we said earlier, the Kylaq, the Cyrus.
Hopefully, if the prices come, then the Bs.
Oh yeah, so that should happen in the second week of Jan.
Since we are on a car MotorInc First, this question has come. Let me just clarify it for you. MotorInc First happens when we have full information that we can discuss in detail. In the Kylaq's case, Skoda showed a camoed version of the car, which was officially built a prototype. That's not good enough for us. Then they gave the price. But at that point, the finished cars weren't available. Now there is a chance that the Kylaq finished trims with the final prices will be available. That's when we'll do the Kylaq MotorInc First.
Since we're doing this for the third time, I think, talking about this, let's understand this. The job of the company is to maximize attention and interest in their product. They are doing their job by drip feeding us the information so that they build up to the launch of the car or whenever it's available and all of that. They are doing their job. But that doesn't mean we have to follow the crumb trail.
And we are the glass full type of people. So let the drip finish, let the glass be full, then we'll take a long, deep drink and tell you what we felt.
And this is also for you because you might get excited and you might, do stuff. And there were people who were messaging even before the full prices came out. Oh man, the Kylaq is so good. I said, how can you judge?
Yeah, how can you judge?
How can you judge?
Absolutely.
We don't know right now.
Absolutely.
So anyways, so that's basically why we are also taking that step back, so that we give ourselves time to think over things and then talk about it.
This is exactly the same picture with the BE6 also. It was the BE6E when we drove it. But the trim we drove didn't have a price. The price we had that trim wasn't available to drive, not enough information. We're not going to move forward on this. So I want you to understand this clearly. You are being marketed to, and the marketing people in the manufacturer, they're doing their jobs. And from the excitement you guys have, they're doing their jobs really well. But that does not mean that we have to rush until we have full information. We're not going to do it. We want you to have the right picture, for which we need to have all kinds of information in one place. Until we do, I'm sorry, but it's not going to be rushed.
Next time you get excited about anything, which may be a price point, which may be a feature, which may be some new tech, whatever it is, just ask yourself, who's winning out of this? Ask yourself, how is it changing my life?
Yeah, that's it. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. That was the story of the Toyota Camry Hybrid. We will be back on MotorInc First very soon. For those of you who have not checked out the MotorInc app yet, we put a lot of work into it. We love how it looks now. Please try it. Thank you.